There's something otherworldly about the middle of the night. Everything we know by day becomes distorted, shrouded by darkness that transforms even the most familiar of shapes into an uncertain force of evil. The night is a conduit for the unknown, after all, and turns everything it touches into something uncomfortable as we struggle to make sense of what we can't see. Night is inherently scary by nature, and so daytime, in the way that all things must be balanced, is not. Daytime is for brunches and barbecues, for park runners and melting ice cream, for destination holidays spent soaking up nothing but sunburns and good times. Sunshine was not meant for monsters, which is why we banish them to the dark recesses under the bed and in the backs of our closets. But sometimes, the terrible things confined to night break out, and daylight only serves to illuminate just how gruesome they really are. Daytime horror movies are hard to pull off, but these 10 picks weaponized the comforts of the light and made us face up to some truly terrifying sights in the process. I am the Sunbeam, Ash from What Culture Horror, and these are 10 terrifying horror movies set during daylight. 10. Rogue. What embodies everyday horror better than a big old crocodile going wild on a bunch of tourists in the middle of Australia? Okay, it might sound like a specialist subject matter to those of us not fortunate enough to live in the land down under, but in the same way films like Jaws and Anaconda take a very normal predator and spin them out into human-culling death machines, Rogue does the same with our reptilian pal. And all 3 films do so largely by the light of day. Rogue follows a group that accidentally stumble into a crocodile's personal feeding ground, and upon discovering the collective, this croc quickly makes lunch plans. Whilst a portion of the movie moves into a nighttime assault, that Rogue isn't afraid to show us the full, brutal horror of a very real threat by broad daylight only serves to make it all the more scary. And when night breaks back into day and we watch a terrifying third act play out in the beast's lair, we're once again shown by the shafts of light coming through that this isn't a monster that can be confined to darkness. As if water needed to be any scarier after Jaws. 9. The Children. The Children reminds us that daytime isn't restricted to beautiful midsummer fields where the sun beats down, but that it's found in cold winter's days where the sky is one giant white sheet too. Taking place in an English estate where young families are meeting up for some New Year's bonding, the children's eerie creepiness is made all the more bold by never succumbing to a darkened sequence for scares. Everything it needs to unnerve you is laid plain and bare out in the snow. Considering we're talking a bunch of parents who can't quite accept that their little angels could turn into murderous psychopaths, this frank lighting shows up all sorts of uncomfortable truths. From a man getting his head cut open with a sneakily placed rake in his sledding path, to another getting a doll forcefully embedded in his stomach. There is plenty that will have you wishing for the lights to go off with this one. 8. Race with the Devil. A slice of 70s goodness that embodies that free spirit out in nature vibe compounded by Woodstock, the hippies in Race with the Devil are taking some liberties with their counterculture. Or rather, that's the story a group of holidaymakers in their RV are forced to swallow when they witness a satanic ritual out in the woods. Told by the local sheriff, it is nothing more than just kids killing animals. Okay then, that's fine. Of course, the truth of the situation comes to light when the group start finding occult symbols pinned to their vehicle, and start attempting to research what could be going on whilst making headway on their journey from Texas to Colorado. Hunted by Satanists that don't want their secret getting out, this film takes a leaf from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and revels in the unforgiving sun of the South, showcasing road trip horror in all of its sunny, sweaty glory. 7. The Woman. A sequel to the cannibalistic carnage of Offspring, the titular woman is the last remaining survivor of an ages-old clan that feasts on human flesh, known for terrorizing a sleepy town in Maine multiple times over the years. In The Woman, this survivor has been captured by lawyer Chris, who attempts to civilize her to his liking with the help of his family. It's an unpleasant movie with an unpleasant array of people doing particularly unpleasant things, but this smaller budget horror offering ends on a suitably spectacular display of violence to wash the sour taste away. Perhaps it's even scarier to see by the light of day what people are really capable of, both of their own accord and when pushed to their limits. Whilst the woman is locked away in a dim room for the most part, seeing sunbeams creep in through the cracks in the cellar reminds us constantly that this is a normal family living their everyday life. And the contrast between their dark secret and everyday existence as the film plays on adds a stark level of discomfort that is hard to wash off. 6. The Noonday Witch. Politnitsa. A Czech Republic film that celebrates all things bright and beautiful, Polednica, or The Noonday Witch in English translation, takes inspiration from the Eastern European legends that tell tale of a mysterious entity that appears in the fields at midday. Where the myth is a personification of sunstroke workers would suffer on hot days, however, this Noonday Witch has set its sights on the young child of Eliška and makes her intent known through swirling mystery. Essentially the sunshine answer to the Babadook, this movie is a rumination on motherhood in the wake of losing a partner, and the fear born from wanting to protect a child so much the scales tip to smothering. Taking all things beautiful about the Czech Republic and weaponizing them against viewers, the Noonday Witch beguiles you with its golden corn and picturesque countryside, only to slap a mythological child snatcher in the middle of it that draws attention to every inky shadow lurking around the edges. 5. Midsummer. And what contemporary list of daylight horrors would be complete without Midsummer? Ari Aster's tour de force of a mismatched couple and their friends heading out to a commune for midsummer festivities, the film swiftly became one of the most talked about films of 2019, and it is not hard to see why. Embracing folk horror in all of its beautiful charm, Midsummer places Danny in the middle of an ancient ritual that doesn't become clear until the film's close. And even then, not much has really been learned. Bathed in sunlight in a country where light isn't constricted by time, as it is bright well into the early hours of the morning at this time of the year in Sweden, the floral wreaths and kitschy designs hide all manner of insidious trappings. From blood eagles to scenocide to faces being torn off, the horrors of Midsummer are clear as day. And where lesser directors would have fallen into the film's inherent comedy readily, Aster manages to walk the thin line between humour and deep disturbance, coated in a sickly psychedelic sheen that makes us question everything we see. 4. The Host. Not quite an outright horror movie in the way we've come to appreciate most of the other choices on this list, The Host is a creature feature that harks back to the days of B-movie monster mashes like Godzilla. Honing in on one inept man's struggle to retrieve his daughter from a beast that has burst forth from the Han River, The Host is as much a sentimental drama as much as it is a creepy flick. But we're focusing on the latter for this list, of course. It's seeing this monster wreak havoc by the light of day that makes it all the more unnerving, as whilst the CGI might be a bit slippery, this bad boy's fearless reign of terror across the waterways of South Korea is not dulled by seeing it in all its glory. In fact, knowing some mad mutant kidnapper can leap forth out of a body of water and take whoever it pleases without adhering to the usual monster rulebook of midnight snacks only doubles down on the horror. 3. The Ruins. One of the best underrated noughties horror flicks out there, The Ruins takes all the fun of a Mexican holiday adventure and intertwines it with a creeping evil long locked away in an archaeological site. And intertwines is precisely the right word, considering that these titular ruins aren't afraid to really dig into the group that thought they'd be digging it, with sentient vines causing all sorts of havoc under the blistering sun. It's scarier than it sounds, honest. The Ruins perfectly balances between a lush, verdant exterior where our central gang are trapped by angry locals and a dingy, dungeon-like interior, contrasting the horrors of humanity against the horrors of nature with every switch between the two. Far better than it has right to be for a simple teen holiday gone wrong premise, The Ruins makes use of its locale to great effect, and it's the blazing sunshine of an unknown, tropical, once beautiful destination that helps subvert expectations. 2. Tremors. Tremors is a big original monster film that oscillates superbly between comedy and horror, with none other than Kevin Bacon at the heart of it. I'm not really sure if you need me to sell you on its daytime horror concept when it's already starting out this strong, but hey, that's what we're here for, so I'll carry on regardless. This film tells the story of two handymen, Val and Earl, who stumble across sandworms that are feasting upon anything they can get their horrible tongues on and into, causing all sorts of bother to those inhabiting isolated towns in the deserts of Nevada. And since these beasties are underground for the most part, they don't need the cover of night to come out and grab a bite of a passerby. Tremors is one of those films that loves the movies that made it possible, bringing forth all the fun of the 50s and 60s into one lovable package that both scares and delights in equal measure. 1. The Wicker Man. We've had a healthy dose of sunlit horror, folk films with nothing to hide, and paid particular attention to Race with the Devil and Midsummer. So now we need to go back to the film that predates them all and pay our dues. The Wicker Man is the OG of horror movies that bears all under the midday sun, making use of its quaint little Scottish island and capitalising on the British countryside to create a completely average setting. Well, average if you just count the people inhabiting the island, of course, but they are rather hard to ignore. The residents of Summer Isle are happily committed to their pagan beliefs, painted as disturbing and wrong by a devoutly Christian Sergeant Howie. It's this friction that serves to amplify the strange circumstances surrounding his investigation into a missing girl, culminating in one of the most iconic images in horror history. And the whole while, Summer Isle is totally committed to its name, being nothing but your average sunny getaway right up until the credits roll. Very creepy.